Happy new month, fam. The month is starting on a new note and on a clean slate. You have the opportunity to write on it whatever you so chooses. Welcome to the program where we review stories making headlines on our national papers. It is the first day in the month of November, year 2021, and I am Owolabi Tosin, and I'll be reviewing papers alongside Boki.
Good morning, Tosin. How was your night? How was the weekend?
Them happy new month, families. Yes. I saw you were shocked. So let's start reviewing our papers this morning with the Nigerian Tribune.
Yes, on the Nigerian Tribune, we have the big story here on Southeast monarchs. Bishops, orders list conditions for peace in Igbo land. Detail of this story you can find on the Tribune. And following the story, traditional rulers, archbishops and bishops of all denominations from the Southeast on Sunday listed conditions that should be pursued vigorously immediately by the federal government to arrest the frightening security situation in the region. Their demands included demilitarization of the zone, the proscription of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, and release of its leader Nnamdi Kanu, as well as the government taking practical steps to end the marginalization of the Igbo from the scheme of things. Numbering 16, the senior citizens in a joint statement obtained by the Nigerian Tribune warned that the current hard stance of the federal government on the precarious situation in the Southeast could only escalate the tension and dislocation in the zone. Uneasy calm in Oyo APC over controversial Congress. Uneasy calm in Oyo APC over controversial Congress. 4 panel members disown process. Claim delegates list falsifies is unfounded, baseless. Congress meeting chair says I was held hostage for 12 hours. Over 2,000 people barricaded my hotel. Wike gives federal government 48 hours to unveil invaders of Justice Odili's House of Reps committee calls for probe. Governor Nyesom Wike and leaders of Rivers State have issued 48 hours ultimatum to the federal government to bring to book those behind the invasion of the residence of Justice Mary Odili of the Supreme Court of Nigeria in Abuja last Friday. The Rivers leaders warned that should anything sinister happen to Justice Odili, her husband and former governor of Rivers State, Dr. Peter Odili, the federal government should be held accountable. Governor Wike made this assertion on behalf of Rivers State elders, federal and state lawmakers, and council chairmen during a press briefing at the Transcorp Hilton, Abuja on Sunday. The governor said they have observed a pattern of persistent harassment of the Odili's family in recent times by alleged agents of the federal government. He recalled that on a fateful day, the Supreme Court nullified the election victory of the All Progressives Congress, APC governorship candidate in Bayelsa State. Hoodlums suspected to be political thugs invaded the residence of Justice Odili, but the federal government didn't take any steps to bring the culprits to book. Federal government roads. Federal government owing Ogun 300 billion naira, says Abiodun. Zenith Bank profits before tax hits 180 billion naira in third quarter 2021. And 55-year-old Oke Odumakin gives birth to twins 6 months after husband's death. Nigerian Tribune wins NMA in editorial writing, and CBN announces selection criteria for private sector companies in 100 for 100 PPP. Ndia seizes London-bound cocaine heroine at Lagos Airport. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has seized consignments of London-bound cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine and Indian hemp at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos. The NDLEA's Director of Media and Advocacy, Mr. Femi Babafemi, said in a statement issued on Sunday in Abuja that narcotic officers of the agency intercepted 20 parcels of cocaine on Thursday, October 28. It was during outward routine clearance of cargo at the Nigerian Aviation Handling Company PLC's NACO export shed. He said the parcels weighed 1.2 kg and were concealed in packets of Z Black soap. He added that 23 parcels of heroin weighing 1.4 kg also concealed in packets of Z Black soap and 39 parcels of 2.35 kg methamphetamine concealed in Juju Osun Black soap were also intercepted. Babafemi stated that another cargo was intercepted at the narco shed where 7.35 kgs of Indian hemp concealed in some tablets of Dudu Osun Black soap were recovered on October 21st. According to him, no fewer than 3 suspects have so far been arrested in connection with the seizures. A nursing mother who claims to be part-time 400-level student of international studies and diplomacy at the University of Benin, Miriam Diriso, had earlier been arrested for trafficking in 5 kg chunk and 8.1 grams of moly. She was arrested barely a week after she was granted bail for attempting to smuggle drugs concealed in cassava flour meal called akpu into NDLEA cell for a suspect. The 35-year-old mother of a 2-month-old baby was first arrested on October 21st by the Edo command of the agency, he stated. 7 die as 3 vehicles, 6 motorcycles, shops razed in Niger community inferno. And the last story here on PDP convention fallout. Inside details of how governors aided Arapaja to beat Oyinlola. Party back to rescue Nigeria from APC mess, says Ayu. Says ruling party has 92 chairmen for 36 states, can't hold convention. Oyinlola congratulates PDP's new leaders. And we also have a picture story here on the Nigerian Tribune. You want to get the story, do well to get the paper and read details. These are all the stories making headline on the Nigerian Tribune.
Thank you. Moving to the Punch newspaper. Punch wins newspaper of the year. 10 other awards at NMMA. And on Anambra decides, we have 76,104 voters in 5 local governments may not vote, says Yaga. And use Anambra Ekiti polls to boost your image, Bishop tells INEC. And details can be found on page 22 of the Punch newspaper. And for the screaming headline, we have Nigerian lost 898.93 billion naira to pipeline vandalism theft in 9 months. And the rider says oil firms lose thousands of barrels of crude oil to pipeline damage. Vandalism dangerous, crippling revenue generation, and this is coming from an expert. Between January and September 2021, Nigeria lost 898.93 billion naira to crude oil losses and repairs of vandalized pipelines, amongst others. Documents obtained from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited showed, and it also gathered that the oil firms deducted a total of 1.78 trillion naira from the remittance to the Federation Account Allocation Committee during the 10-month period. Data from 10 various NNPC reports indicated that the reasons for the repeated product losses and its attendant value shortfall include sabotage on oil installations and pipelines, community interference, and production shutdown. The October 2021 reports of the oil firm to FAAC, for instance, stated that Seplat Terminal suspended crude oil production due to sabotage on its Izombe-Eboche line. The report further showed that the shutdown dragged on from July 21st to August 8, 2021, and led to the halt in the production of thousands of barrels of crude. Similarly, in the NNPC September 2021 presentation to FAAC, it stated that the Energia terminal injection of crude into Bras line was suspended from July 1st to 31st due to pipeline damages. It further stated that third-party interference on Nigerian Ajip Oil Company Akiri pipeline led to the suspension of Pillar terminal injection into Bras. Banks begin deduction of loans from chronic debtors' accounts. And the picture story on the Punch newspaper, activists from the global environmental movement Extinction Rebellion in the middle of Via Naziola in central Rome protesting against the G20 World Leaders Summit on Thursday. $11 million fraud. Court orders interim forfeiture of Invictus Obi's houses and cars. Man arrested for defiling 10-year-old left behind by murder in Ondo, with details in page 5. And Amotekun arrests teenagers with 50-kilogram sack of Indian hemp in Osun. Oke Odumakin welcomes twins 6 months after husband's death. Human rights activist Dr. Joe Oke-Odumakin was delivered of twins at a United States of American hospital on October 27, 2021. The widow of the late spokesperson of Afenifere, Yinka Odumakin, in a statement on her Facebook page on Sunday, said the miracle birth fulfilled the wishes of her late husband. The late Odumakin, towards the end of his sojourn on earth, wished to have another baby to be named after him, she said. The couple got married in 1997, had their first baby, a girl, in 2000, and the second, a boy, in 2003. While the girl was named after Joe, the boy was named Abraham after the late Afenifere leader, Pa Abraham Adesoya. The statement said the twins are coming 18 years after the last childbirth, after he survived a 3-day coma in 2020, and a few months before he succumbed to the illness that eventually but unexpectedly claimed his life. Yinka Odumakin, as he is fondly called, developed a strong desire for him and his wife to have another baby. Thank God Joe did not deter or procrastinate, as she took in just about the time Yinka Odumakin took ill and never recovered. Odumakin died on April 3rd at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, Ikeja, after a brief illness. Buhari jets off to Scotland for climate change summit. Vendors fail to embrace e-naira as download stalls at 220,000. Nursing mother on bail for attempting drug smuggling rearrested for trafficking skunks. And the last story on the Punch newspaper, PDP governors move against Mark Unyilola to reduce military influence, with details in page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And those are all the stories making headlines on the Punch newspaper.
And moving on to The Guardian. 150 days after ban, Nigerians await truce between federal government, Twitter. Suspension may be lifted this week. Only 1 out of 10 demands yet to be met. Twitter admits progress in discussions, awaits federal government decision. Twitter global users increase. Revenue jumps by 37% to $1.28 billion. SMEs, government, economy bleed as losses hit 370 billion naira. Experts appeal to government to consider usefulness of platform. Uncertainty continues to trail federal government's plan to lift the ban placed on microblogging platform Twitter in Nigeria, 150 days after and exactly a month since President Muhammadu Buhari promised to unban Twitter. However, sources monitoring developments between the government and social media giant disclosed to newsmen yesterday that the ban could be lifted this week. When asked about the status of the ban, he said, as at today, Sunday, both teams have made significant progress. Federal government is finalizing it. The ban should be lifted this week. There has been major progress to discussions. Out of the 10 demands by government, only 1 is left, which is Twitter. And only 1 is left. More detail of this story you can find on page 2 of The Guardian. Intrigues as PDP governors take firm charge of party. Politicking over. It's time to rescue Nigeria, says Ayu Arapaja. Akinwumi-led NWC may resign for Ayu's early inauguration. 25-year-old national youth leader elects visit Saraki, receives advice. After fierce contest, Oyinlola concedes, congratulates Arapaja. And only 5 African nations might achieve COVID-19 year-end vaccination target. The World Health Organization's Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Mashidiso Moeti, yesterday at a virtual conference on COVID-19 said just 5 of the 54 African nations could achieve the year-end target of vaccinating 40% of their populations, except something drastic happens in the face of rising demand for essential commodities like syringes. She said Seychelles, Mauritius, and Morocco have already met the goal that was set in May by the World Health Assembly. the globe's highest health policy setting body. At the current pace, just 2 more countries, Tunisia and Cabo Verde, would join the club. The World Health Organization official was joined at the event facilitated by APO Group by Director General Rwanda Biomedical Center Dr. Sabine Nsanzimana and Director of External Affairs for PATH in Africa Region and PATH Country Representative South Africa, Sibusiso Lakwadku. Also on the ground to respond to questions were WHO's new vaccine introduction officer, Dr. Ferna Atubewe, and Deputy Incident Manager for COVID-19 response, Dr. Theano Balde. Moeti feared that limited access to key items such as syringes might slow the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines on the continent. Still on The Guardian, Wike gives federal government 48 hours to expose invaders of Justice Odili's house. INEC not ready for credible poll in Anambra, Ohaneze alleges. And the last story here says The Guardian's Salau Adepetun Jeremiah shine at 29th NMMA. We also have a picture story here. You want to get detail of this picture story, do well to get The Guardian and read other stories that interest you as well.
Thank you. Moving to The Nation newspaper. Rivers Rep Caucus flays siege to Odili's home. Zenith Bank posts 180 billion naira profit in 9 months, and Buhari in Glasgow for climate change conference. Coming from Tinubu, he says, why I visited President. Details can be found in page 5 of The Nation newspaper. And a big story on 2023, PDP governors in deft move against Atiku and Saraki. Forum pushes to produce party candidates. And the last story on The Nation newspaper says CBN sets rules to fund 100 firms in 100 days. A framework designed as guides to the selection of 100 targeted private companies for financial support in the next 100 days has been released by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The support comes under the Apex Bank 100 for 100 policy on production and productivity. The application process for private companies to participate opens today. CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, who announced the scheme in Abuja, said the Apex Bank will advertise, screen, scrutinize, and financially support 100 targeted private sector's company in 100 days. Emefiele said today, in addition to all policies and actions of the CBN to support the economy, especially through the trying times of COVID-19, the Apex Bank is announcing a new financial instrument titled the 100 for 100 PPP, Policy on Production and Productivity, which will be anchored on our Development Finance Department under my direct supervision. The operational guidelines released by the Development Finance Department of the CBN at the weekend said the PPP financial instruments will reverse Nigerians' over-reliance on imports. This will be achieved by creating a platform that will target and support the right companies and projects with potentials to immediately transform and jumpstart the production base of the economy. The guideline highlighted robust and transparent process for identifying and selecting the targeted high-impact companies and projects under the CBN 100 for 100 PPP. The Apex Bank said such projects must stimulate sustainable employment-led economic growth through increased domestic production and productivity in the near term. The project for consideration shall be new project in existing companies, requires new machineries and other support, and must have the greatest potential to achieve significant scale in their in-country production and for domestic consumption and export. The Apex Bank said the selection criteria for participation shall be premised on immediate contribution to economic growth, job creation, and social impact. Evidence-based, transparent, and measurable criteria must be deployed in selecting the companies and projects to be supported. And those are all the stories making headlines on the Nation newspaper. We have 2 picture stories on the Nation. Do well to visit the Nation newspaper to look out for stories that interest you the most.
Thank you, Tosin. And moving on to this day, the big story coming from IU. PDP is back to rescue Nigeria from her current mess. Zenith Bank surmounts headwinds, post 180 billion naira profit before tax in third quarter. Buhari, climate crisis can't be fixed by causing energy crisis in Africa, says warnings of end of world as old civilization itself. Energy solutions proposed by environmentalists are fuel for instability. Departs for COP26 in Glasgow. Ahead of the 26th Conference of Parties, COP26, which begins tomorrow, where world leaders are gathering in Glasgow, Scotland. President Muhammadu Buhari, in an article he penned in Newsweek magazine, has made it clear that climate crisis in developed countries would not be fixed by causing energy crisis in Africa. The president, who departed Abuja yesterday for the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, gave the assertion in an opinion titled, "The climate crisis will not be fixed by causing crisis in Africa." According to the president, unless the developed world wakes up, they run the risk of trying to fix the climate crisis with an energy crisis. The president, while making reference to a statement by senior United Nations officials who raised the alarm that world conflict and chaos and mass migrations and uninstitutional collapse showed greenhouse gas emissions remained unchecked for much longer, said mankind has a duty to act on these dangers. Buhari said their warnings of the end of the world are as old as civilization itself, but each year as the countdown to United Nations Climate Change Conference COP begins, they grow in volume and intensity, but of their seriousness, we must not do so rashly. And still on this day, CBN unveils 100 for 100 policy. You want to know what Emechi is saying on the Monday interview? Do well to get this day and read more details. And these are all the stories making headline on this day national newspaper.
Up next is the Daily Sun newspaper. Southeast monarch religious leaders demand Kanu's release, with the rider wants the proscription of IPOB. The big story, Zenith Bank PBT hits 180 billion naira in third quarter 2021. And on 2023 poll, North will back credible candidates coming from NEF and says secession threat, bad options for Southeast. Ohaneze, Middle Belt, Ezeife reacts. Catholic bishop taxed INEC on Ekiti Anambra Guba polls. CBN unveils criteria for participation in 100 for 100 policy. Bribery trails nomination of judges in Abia. And Odili, Wike gives federal government 48 hours to unmask attackers. The Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has given the federal government 48 hours to expose those that invaded Justice Mary Odili's house on Friday. The governor gave the ultimatum in Abuja yesterday at a news conference jointly organized by the state government and leaders of thought in the state. On Friday evening, some security operatives invaded the home of Mary Odili. The Economic and Financial Crime Commission, EFCC, have since denied its involvement in the invasion. Also, Attorney General and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami denied this intuition that the federal government was behind the incident. Wike, who described the action as an assassination attempt, said this was not the first time the House of the Supreme Court Justice will be attacked by unknown persons, with the federal government doing nothing about it. He said, I believe there is something going on somewhere. Not long ago, the passport of her husband and former governor of Rivers State, Peter Odili, was seized by immigration. The federal government denied it. It was only when he went to court and the court said it was wrong to seize his passport that immigration came up to say they held the passport because his name was on the watch list. On a day the head of the family was not around, his home was invaded. This was an assassination attempt. We River people want to sound it clear that the lives of Peter Odili and that of members of his family are important to us and will not take it kindly should anything happen to any of them. The governor said this is not the time to set up a probe panel because nothing will come out of it. We want to see the federal government take concrete action against the perpetrators of evil acts, he said. Also, Southeast South professionals of Nigeria and Yoruba Ronu Leadership Forum condemned the action. Still on the Daily Sun newspaper, PDP convention, how governors shared National Working Committee seats. Former State Senate President Senator Iyorchia Ayu emerged the new national chairman at the party's national convention, with Senator Samuel Anyanwu as national secretary. Ayu had earlier been endorsed as the consensus candidate of the North and Southeast respectively. Former Oyo State Deputy Governor Taufik Arapaja emerged as Deputy National Chairman South with 2,004 votes to defeat former Osun State Governor Olagunsoye Oyinlola, who polled 705 votes. Also, Umar Damagum scored a total of 2,222 votes to defeat his sole rival, Mrs. Ina Chiroma, for the position of Deputy National Chairman North. Ahmed Mohamed, Umar Bature, and Daniel Woyego Kuru emerged unopposed as National Treasurers, National Organizing Secretary, and National Financial Secretary, respectively. Others elected were Stella Efa Ato as National Woman Leader, Kamaldeen Adeyemi Ajibade, National Legal Advisor, Debo Olagunabade, National Publicity Secretary, and Mohammed Suleiman, National Youth Leader. Okechukwu Daniel as National Auditor and Koshido as Deputy National Secretary, amongst others. And Daily Sun gathered that prior to the National Convention, the PDP governors had shared key positions in the National Working Committee amongst themselves and ensured that no other candidates contested against their choice candidates for the various positions. It was also gathered that immediately the PDP governors decided on the zoning of party offices, individuals also ceded to their respective geopolitical zone, and consequently Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom, who is the only PDP governor in the North Central, produced the national chairman, while Governor Ahmed Fintiri and Bala Mohammed of Adamawa and Bauchi State respectively produced the deputy national chairman North, which was micro-zoned to the northeast. Similarly, Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde produced the deputy national chairman South, with the Enugu State Governor Ifeanyi Ugwanyi and the Abia State counterpart Okeazu Ikpeazu of Abia State producing the national chairman North. Still on the Daily Sun newspaper, the last story here says bribery trail nomination of judges in Abia. And those are all the stories making headlines on the Daily Sun newspaper.
And moving on to Business Day, the story here says frustration grows as lack of jobs rags Nigerians. Nigeria's unemployment crisis, the worst since country's transition to democracy in 1999, is unrelenting and waging a continuous war on the people. Some 23 million Nigerians are unemployed, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, the equivalent of the population of the Netherlands and Singapore combined. The unemployment rate of 33.3% is the second highest globally after Namibia. What is worse is the forecast by economists with the rate could hit 40% by the end of 2021. Sadly, the pain of unemployed Nigerians is, however, not limited to simply having no jobs. Unemployed workers do not only lose their income, but their minimum security and their health benefits. They lose the capacity to update themselves in their professions. They lose their identity. Their families are unstructured. Their lives are unstructured. A family in which all members lose their jobs lives the reality of hunger, lack of housing, illness, and poor or no education. Vo was sacked from her job in a bank in 2017. It was in the aftermath of Nigeria's first recession in 40 years. She had spent 11 years with the bank, working mainly in operations, she said. We came to the office one Monday and many of us found that we could not log into our systems. We later got our sack letters and were told to go home. They told us that if the economic situation improved, they would call us back, she narrated. The economic situation has not improved much since then. Over 8,000 jobs losses were recorded among bank workers in 2017. The trend was similar, with over 3,000 employee layoff in banking sector between 2015 and 2016 respectively. About 44,674 contract staff on the payroll of commercial banks have been reduced by over 5,000, as well as over 2,000 junior staff losing their jobs, amongst others. According to the NBS, almost 8,000 jobs losses occurred in the sector in the first 9 months of 2020. Vo was paid her entitlements for months later. She moved to her hometown near Jos in Plateau State and poured her entire savings into farming fonio and maize. It was a large farm, and Vo had plans to pour her accounting degree and financial management experience to turn it into a profitable agro-business outfit, supplying fonio, corn, and in the future green vegetables to markets in Lagos and the South. These are all the stories on Business Day. Do well to get the paper and read more detail.
Thank you, Spock. And the last paper we'll be reviewing this morning is the Vanguard newspaper. Zenith Bank remains resilient as PBT rises to 189 billion naira in 9 months. Scores bonds to ashes. Many shops razed as 2 fuel tankers collide in Niger. UB GMD Kennedy Uzoka wins Flinovator Man of the Year award. And NPO Richard Akinola appointed Vanguard Ombudsman. The big story on convention aftermath. PDP governors dig in, set to decide presidential candidates. Foreign investors take 412 billion naira on 35 Nigerian startup in 10 months. The rider says African e-commerce to reach 445 billion naira by 2025. This is coming from an investors and reflect capacity of Nigerian tech entrepreneurs coming from Nasima and opportunities in ICT says how investors risk says ex-LCCI boss. Northern Christian elders accuse Buhari of lopsided appointments. Reps call for probe on raid of Justice Mary Odili's residence. Wike Rivers teachers gives 48 hours ultimatum. CBN unveils criteria for participation in 100 for 100 PPP. And the last story on the Vanguard newspaper says passport shortage. 600 Nigerians risk deportation from Kuwait. And those are all the stories making headlines on the Vanguard newspaper. At this point, we'll be right back after this time out. Welcome back. Our phone lines are open, and thanks for dropping your comments on our Facebook page. Now you can call us on stories that interest you the more on the papers we are reviewing this morning. I'm talking about the story on the Business Day newspaper where we talk about the rate of unemployment in our country. When we talk about unemployment, you know that people are really dealing hard with issues of unemployment. And this has birthed so many issues, so many crime rates in the country, because when you look at people who are apprehended for different crime, they narrow it back to unemployment, saying they've studied hard and they have nothing to put in their resources into, they have nothing to put in their attention into, which when you talk about job opportunities, creation of jobs in our country. Looking at this issue, our president have been attending different summits. I know that issue of employment should be raised in those summits. What are you doing back in the country? And we see that even different sectors that are supposed to employ people into the organization, into the sector, to look out to bring in their own resources in ways we can grow our country. We see that those sectors, they are lopsiding, and also they are looking out for ways they can merge with other places, because we had a testimony from a person who said she was working in a bank and she had issue where she had to leave, and she narrowed her resources into farming. Definitely farming is another sector that can boost the economy and even help individuals. But where do you get the money before you can invest into farming? Something needs to be done about employment in our country, because what is the essence for going to school, studying hard, going through different strike? Even look at the problem that students are going to, risking their lives and even their resources into the academic sector. Then you see that at the end of the day, there's nothing to show for it when you talk about job opportunity. So we just need availability of jobs in our country, and that's why we see that the Chinese company are making use of Nigerians and using them anyhow, because you employ them in the sector, you don't care about their welfare, you don't care about their security, and you see that people are being used as slaves in Chinese companies. So something need to be done about when you talk about job creation as a federal parastatal and even the federal government. When you create job, it will reduce the number of crime rates and also help people to be individually and also to be able to stand on their own, and that will help create little sector that will be able to employ people into those sector, and that will reduce number of crime rates in our country.
Of course, and then looking at this statistic that was given by the National Bureau of Statistics, some 23 million Nigerians are unemployed, and this is an equivalent of the population of the Netherlands and Singapore combined. So imagine we have a population of about 200 million people and about 23 million who are able and capable to be employed, to be workers, to be people who add up to the economy of the nation, have nothing to do. I know it is not enough reason for people out there who are found guilty of some crime activities and then relating it to unemployment. But how well have we created a conducive environment, even not to talk of how that unemployment is raging around the country, and then we still have people who even had their jobs but they lost it to some circumstances and issues or situations surrounding that institute which they were working. Yes, some people might have the opportunity to go back or fall back to something and then develop it at the end of the day, just like Vo had narrated her story and shared it to newsmen. But what is going on in some of these sectors that unemployed people or unemployed youths in Nigeria today can invest in? We don't have policies that are favoring even people who are trying to empower these sectors, just like the agriculture sector. How many policies are favoring people who are investing in this sector today? So these are some of the things that we can also look out for. It's not just about creating jobs, it's not just about giving employment, which is not even there in the first place, but how conducive is this sector enough for people to thrive in, even when they decide to invest in these sectors, even when they decide to build something or be innovative enough to create something out of the little that they have. We need policies that would favor people in these sectors, that will favor businesses in these sectors in order for them to thrive. Imagine if we have this 23 million unemployed people employed today. Imagine the number of people they would empower individually, and it will be paid forward, because if you employ one in a family, trust me, other people too will be relieved of some responsibilities, because some things will be taken care of. Look at how the NBS has given a report based on people who are not employed in a family. They are so unstructured in so many ways. Look at health challenges that come into the family. They won't be able to solve these issues because they don't have the resources, they don't have the power, the manpower to go out there and even fend for family members who are suffering from some diseases. Look at what is happening even in the health sector. We have people that are being unemployed on a daily basis from the health sector, and we still have cases of diseases and other illness hitting hard on the health sector, but we don't even have capable hands there to ensure that things are being done right, things are moved well. But because of the issue of unemployment, so many things have come up. You can see that there are challenges coming up on a daily basis in the country. Really, unemployment is something that has to be dealt with, and you know, the issue of insecurity also has contributed to a large extent onto how we have issues of unemployment in the country, because you can see that because of attacks and other things that had happened based on the issues of insecurity, some structures and sectors that people were working in had been destroyed, and it's not easy to rebuild back, and some people have come back home unemployed. So some of these things are really also related to the issues of insecurity, and we still have so much to be done in this country unless we start making deliberate efforts to ensure that we fix these things from the root cause of the problems. then we will not move an inch. But the issue of unemployment is really something that we have to look into at this point in time.
Yes, obviously unemployment is not doing us any good as a country, and it's not giving us a good record as a nation. Thank you, Bok, for doing this with me. Any words for our viewers?
As I will always maintain, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. Let's all have this understanding and ensure that we keep peace first, and we have a blessed day ahead. Also, happy new month once again.
Yes, don't be afraid to give up the good for the great. Have a blessed week and happy new month to you all.